You're listening to REI USA Podcast, your prime resource for genuine real estate growth. If you want to jumpstart your real estate career, whether in active or passive investing, this is the right show for you. Join professional home renovator Stacy as she talks to REI USA teachers and expert investors willing to share their tips and tricks to get started in investing, sharing actionable advice in every area of real estate, all while putting legality, habitability, and safety above everything else. Combine their unparalleled advice with your strong drive for success, and that incredible real estate fortune will be yours. Now, here's your host, Stacy.
I'm so excited to teach this. What's crazy is, people say, oh, you're a real estate expert or whatever, right? Like, I don't really consider myself to be an expert. You have to do something 10,000 times, right? So flipping houses, we're not quite there yet with 10,000 times, but what I'm about to share with you now, I've done 10,000 times. I've had this talk thousands of times about how to raise private money, practiced it with potential lenders, so on and so forth. So I would say I am an expert in this right here, because this is my sweet spot. This is my bread and butter. So I'm gonna pull it up, you guys. All right, we good to go? All right, cool. 7 steps to establishing credibility. So I am really excited to teach this topic. This is like, to me, this is a superpower. I've got Batman there. This is a superpower. So this skill set of being able to raise private money, and you hit the nail on the head earlier, Stacy, it is like a superpower. Like Captain America has his shield. Iron Man has like his outfit. Superman can jump, fly, do all that stuff. Wonder Woman has her lasso of truth. To us as real estate investors, the ability to raise private money is a superpower. So here's the deal. With great power comes great what? Type it in the box. With great power comes great what? Responsibility. To me, raising private money is so easy. It's simple. If you spend the next couple of months with Christy and I on our training with REI USA, like there's no doubt in my mind, this is just gonna be bam, bam, bam. This is gonna be simple. This might be your favorite part of the business when we're through with you, right? But following through with the rehab is going to be a big part of how good you're gonna be at borrowing money. And a lot of people think that this superpower is being able to borrow the funds. And that's the goal, right? The goal is to be able to pick up the phone, make a phone call, and secure funding. The goal is to be able to look a seller in the eye at their house, shake their hand on agreed upon price with 100% confidence, exactly where you're getting the funding from, right? That's the goal of all of this. But the real superpower with private money lending is being a great borrower, being the best borrower that you can be. That's our superpower. And helping lenders by paying lenders a great rate of return on their money that they're simply not going to get anywhere else. Nowhere else can we can't walk into a bank and say, hey, do you have a product you could offer me? I've got some money. I want to put it to work. I'd like to secure it with an asset, 70 cents on the dollar and make a double-digit rate of return. You got anything like that back there? And they're going to look at you like you got 8 heads. They're going to be like, no, that's what we do, right? So this is an awesome superpower, but our superpower is not getting the money. It's being a great borrower and helping lenders make great rates of return on your money. And I can't stress that enough. So anytime I teach a class with REI USA or live in person, wherever, I cover 2 slides, and these are really, really important. And this is going to help your credibility, right? This is all about establishing credibility. So don't skim over this stuff, right? This is important. So if I were to ask you, hey, you guys, you want to see real life examples of private lenders and deals that we've gotten funded or deals that we've lent on or made up examples, you're probably going to say, hey, show me the real life stuff. I like to see exactly what happened. Okay, cool. So that's what I'm going to do. But real estate's unique. That's what's cool about it. There's no single piece of real estate that's the same. There's no deal that's the same. Nothing ever goes the same. Every single day I see something different in this business. So here's what I'm saying. Just because I share a success story of myself or a lender, know that that is never going to happen to you the exact way that it happened to me. There's people that, a big part of me started teaching this because I had some friends that got hurt lending money to people who didn't know what they were doing. And in fact, they didn't know what they were doing. They're like, oh, I've got a prom note. I think I'm good. They didn't have the right documents. So there's a lot of stuff that could go wrong, right? Let's take this serious, right? So people can make money. They can lose money. You guys are smart. You understand that, but we shouldn't avoid talking about it because your lenders are going to want to know, right? They're going to want to know. Disclaimers as far as like licensing. And this is really, really important. So I'm not an attorney, right? You've heard other people on this call say that. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not an accountant, right? So if you talk tax strategy or something like that, I'm sharing from the perspective of an investor. I'm not licensed in anything. Some people would say I shouldn't even have a driver's license. My wife being one of them. But here's the deal. Here's why I'm saying that. Like, I know what you're thinking. If you're watching this, you're like, hey, no, I get it. Get to the meat and potatoes. We want to learn the 7 steps to credibility, right? This is the meat and potatoes. This is the meat and potatoes. This is the nuts and the bolts. Like, credibility tip number 1, write it down. Surround yourself with business professionals. I can't stress this enough. This is huge. So if you're a brand new real estate investor, and someone comes up to you and says, hey, or you're talking to someone, you're like, gosh, this person might be interested in funding one of my deals. And they ask you, hey, how many deals have you done? And you're like, what do you say? This is my first one. Like, who's going to want to lend on your first one? Nobody, right? So here's what I would say. Find the best of the best in your market. So when I first got started, so like, I'm 39 years old right now. Imagine 15 years ago, baby face, in my mind, my mindset was, who's going to lend to me? I'm just a kid, just getting started. Like, and it was silly. But one of the things I decided to do, made a decision, is, hey, I'm going to surround myself with the best of the best. I'm not the sharpest crayon in the box or whatever the saying is. But what I am good at is surrounding myself with the best of the best. So this is a huge step 1. Get a real estate attorney, because who's going to be drawing your documents up? The prom note, the mortgage, who's doing your closings. This is important. Or title company, right? Who's your contractor? How long has your contractor been in business? Do you even have a contractor picked out before you start talking about raising capital, right? Who's your real estate agent? Who's your financial advisor? Who's your accountant? Who's doing your books? Because here's what's powerful, you guys. We're talking about establishing credibility here, right? So even if you were brand new, you could say, hey, you know what? This is my first go around, but my real estate attorney's been doing this 25 years. My contractor, he's the best of the best. He's been doing this 25 years. He's got an amazing team. My real estate agent, they're in the top 1% of our market for sales. I've got an accountant that handles everything, my books. So while I might be new, I've got decades of experience surrounding me, right? So it's just a different way to break the ice. And even if you haven't done, even if you're like, I've done 10 deals, I've done 20 deals, in my mind, you're still brand new. So don't be intimidated with like, hey, I've got to get my first deal done. There's so much to learn. Surround yourself with the people that have been doing this a long time. And I would add coaching and mentoring to that too. Like, that's why you're here with Stacy, right? So that's number 1. I hope this is good stuff. Credibility number 2, learn and then educate. So most of our private money lenders have never been private money lenders before. Like, sometimes when I'm coaching or teaching, it's like someone will say, hey, like, where are all the private money lenders? And like, there's no like store, right? It's not like, oh, you go down to the street, to Main Street, and then turn left, that's the private money store. No, it's like, it's everywhere. Most of the time with our lenders, what we're doing is we're teaching people about the options that they have and educating them. And then what happens is 9 times out of 10, they end up wanting to be lent. So like, if someone came to me and said, hey, I want to get into real estate, I want to own a rental property, thinking about doing a flip, I'll ask them, hey, like, what's your goal with all of this, right? We all know someone that's like, I'm thinking about buying a rental, what should we do? And 9 times out of 10, it's just cash flow, or they just want to make money with their money. And so if we can show them, hey, look, what if instead of buying this rental property, what if you just lent me the money? And we go through our system and explain, which I'm going to share with you, right? So, and we teach people their options too. A lot of my lenders probably never would have thought that they could be a lender or would have become a lender if I hadn't shared with them, hey, look, if you look at the list there on the left, like seller finance, Chrissy just did seller finance. Seller finance is just another way of saying private money lender, because that person's getting a mortgage, they're getting a prom note, they're getting all the same stuff, right? So before I go, when I'm meeting with a seller, I'll say, hey, look, oh man, congratulations on selling me your house. You're going to make 200 grand. What are you going to do with all this money? You're going to take a trip, you're going to go on a cruise. What are you doing? Have a good laugh. And they're like, oh no, I don't know. I'll probably just stick it in the bank. I'm not really sure. Stock market. Man, how would you like to make 6, 7, 8% rate of return on your money for the next 6 months while I renovate this house, because I'm going to bring in someone. I was planning on bringing in a lender. Why don't I just pay you? So there's ways that we can do this. And again, hop on our REI USA calls once a month. Christy shared with you. I'll share with you what it is again at the end. And we're going to go through like what to say, all this stuff with them. But like pulling cash out of life insurance policies, putting it into work in 2 different places, using IRAs. Like there's so much that people could use. 9 times out of 10, they just don't know. So if we teach them, and we're the ones that they've learned this stuff from, our credibility starts to go where? Starts to go up. So tip number 3, mindset is everything. Mindset is everything. So if you're on your hands and knees and you're like, oh, please, I need this money. I see this on Facebook all the time. It drives me bonkers. It drives me insane. Because what happens is people like, I need a deal, or I need cash. I've got this deal. And they make it about me. They turn into these like me monsters, right? And they sound so desperate for cash. Anytime we're looking at an opportunity, I just said it, it's an opportunity. Anytime we're raising capital, this is an opportunity for another person to make a great rate of return on their money and have that investment or that loan secured by an asset. Can't walk into a bank and get this stuff. So just know that we're creating win-win situations. That we're introducing them to opportunities that they just never would have known existed. And I'll share with you this mindset, and having that mindset of like, hey, no, I'm the one who's presenting I'm the one that's in control. I have positioning here because I have something that you're not getting anywhere else. Because if someone were to go to the bank, you guys know the numbers, and I would have this chart somewhere on your website. Maybe you hand it to them. Maybe you have it in like a flyer or something if you're meeting with someone, showing them the differences. And this is just money that's compounding, right? And if someone were to put the money in the bank at 1%, let's say it's 100 grand, it's going to take, 72 years for them to double their money. If we have the ability to help a person make a 12% rate of return compounded annually, they're going to be able to double their money in 6 years. And you can see the chart, you can see the numbers. It's staggering, right? And here's the power. Remember, what's a superpower? What's a superpower? It's being a great borrower and helping lenders make great rates of return on their money. So the difference between a lot of my lenders and people that I've helped from going from 1% to 12%, what's the difference between the person that makes 1% and the person that makes 12%? It's us. It's us explaining this to them and showing them this opportunity. So have that mindset that we're helping people big time. So here's some common terms that Christy and I use. So this is simple interest, and these are annualized. It's simple interest annualized. So like basically if I'm paying someone 12%, if I have their funds for the entire year, they're making that 12% rate of return. If I have their funds in a project for 6 months, then they're making 6%, right? So in order to get the full 12, it's got to go the whole year, right? For shorter loans, sometimes we'll add what's called points. You might be familiar with that, where it's 1 or 2 percentage points of the loan. What Christy and I do is we always set up our flips on 12-month balloon loans. So that even if we're thinking the project's going to take 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, we set up on a 12-month balloon loan, give ourselves lots of options. And in my mind, sometimes lenders we think if you're new, lots of times you think that the person wants to give us their money and get it right back. And that 12 months seems like a long time. If you're new, you might be thinking that. But if you've been doing the business for a while, what you'll find out is not a lot of people like that. Because think about this. If someone's selling stocks or liquidating something, there's a process to it. They probably put in some work. They probably paid some fees, maybe some taxes. And now they're investing with us. They want to make that 12% for as long as they want their money to go to work. They don't want it back, right? If we say, hey, this flip's only going to take 3 months, they're going to be like, oh man, like I'm not going to make as much interest as I want, right? So don't be afraid to go long. Sometimes if you work with a lot of hard money companies, they might say, hey, it's 6 months, 9 months, but you can extend. They're hoping that you screw up and you would have to extend because the fees are pretty high to do that, right? So we always give ourselves a cushion, and our lenders like it. We can do monthly interest payments or everything paid at the end. And there's 4 critical documents that we use every single time. So credibility tip number 4, follow the rules. We never offer advertise. I never advertise. We offer a guaranteed rate of never offer a guaranteed rate of return. And we're not pooling funds. So someone asked a question a few sessions ago to Stacy about like, what's the difference between syndication and pooling funds and just doing a private loan. It's a debt position. So what we're giving them is an instrument, which I'll talk about on the next slide, where they have a debt position. They're the lender. It's not an equity position, so it's different. So it's important that we know this and we're able to explain this to someone. Because lots of times I'll meet people and they're like, hey, we're all going to pool our money together and let's just keep it nice and clean, follow the rules. Everybody's going to get a loan or a mortgage, a prom note if we do more than one lender on the same deal. That's how we do it anyways. Credibility tip number 5. This is huge. This is why I got into helping people and teaching this stuff, is because I had some friends that were lending money and they weren't doing any of this stuff, or they were doing 1 out of 4 and they ended up getting hurt and missing out, losing some money, and calling us. We try to help them. But here's the deal. If you're a lender, you're going to ask for this every single time. If you're a borrower, you're going to provide this every single time. So number 1, we're going to do a promissory note. This outlines the terms of the loan. We're going to provide you with a mortgage or deed of trust. This is going to act as your security, Mr. and Mrs. Lender, on the property. And we're going to list you on the insurance as the loss payee. And I always do personal guarantees as well. And that's usually thrown into the promissory note. So I had someone one time was like, why would you do a personal guarantee? Because I believe in my deal. If you're not willing to do a personal guarantee, what does that say about your deal? Right? I don't know. That's just how I do business. Right? So take a shot of this, screenshot, phone shot, write it down every single time. Don't lend money without this stuff, because 9 times out of 10, figuratively speaking, something's going to go wrong. Okay. Credibility number 6, know your business model. So let's say you got someone who's interested in this and they're like, you got like a bite, right? Fish is on the line a little bit. It's like, feed them some more. Like, so they might want to know more information, right? This sounds good. Double-digit rate of return. I'm in. Tell me a little bit more. So here's what I recommend. Your business model is really, if you're fixing and flipping, like let's use this as an example, like know your numbers and know your neighborhood really, really well. So like, people always ask me like, hey, like, where do you recommend I start? Which neighborhood do you recommend I start? And I always say like, pick one that's close to you. Like, why pick a neighborhood that's on the other side of town? Like, pick your neighborhood. Who cares? Have numbers in place of what your typical purchase price is going to be, what you expect repair costs to be, the total of those two. Because when I borrow money, I borrow all the money that I need to buy it and to fix it up. Right. And then have the number of what it's going to be worth once it's all renovated, once it is fixed up and you go to list it on the market. Right. So for a long time, this was our little sweet spot. And we still do these numbers here in Columbia, South Carolina. They're creeping up a little bit, but right around here, this gives someone a good idea of what your business model is. So if someone's interested in lending you money, you better be able to say this, like just roll off the tip of your tongue. I've said it 10,000 times at least, right? Mr. and Mrs. Lender, what we do is we buy houses for 100. We put 50 grand into them, and a person's $150,000 asset, loan is secured by a $225,000 asset, just like a bank would want, right? Just like a bank would want. So if I were to give you a homework assignment right now, I would say, hey, pick your neighborhood, figure out what your goal is, right? Maybe you work backwards with the Mayo. And again, join our sessions at REI USA. I go great detail about how to come up with these numbers. But after repair value, let's say is 225. I know that I'm timesing that by 70%, subtract my repairs, and this is kind of what I'm looking at, right? Mr. and Mrs. Lender, we buy for 100, put 50 into it. A person's $150,000 loan is secured by a $225,000 asset, just like a bank. So these are the things that people are going to want to know. And this is something super cool. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to share with you in the elevator pitch, the value in this, because again, there's no private money store, but I'm having these conversations at my kids' hockey games. I'm having these conversations. I don't get out of the house much. If we are at the restaurant, right, at the bar, Christy and I get a night out or whatever, right? So like, these are the conversations that we're having. So here's an example. Again, this is our business model, right? That's our business model. These are our numbers. And so when we go to borrow money, we're in line with what we're saying. So Mr. and Mrs. Lender, see what we're doing with this project. We're buying it for 95. We're putting 35 into it. The person, your $130,000 loan is secured by a $207,000 asset, just like a bank would want it secured, right? And I show you the examples. And on Facebook, what I'll share with you, if you have a successful deal, I see this all the time. People share, oh, I just flipped this house. I made 30 grand. I flipped this house. I did, look at me. I'm so cool. What if you notice, you follow Christy on Facebook, we don't do any of that. What we do is we make our lenders look cool. We put our lenders on the pedestal, right? We put our lenders on the pedestal. We say, hey, congratulations to our lender. In just 153 days, they made $6,537.69. They got a total payoff of that number there, and they're super stoked. Congratulations. We look forward to another one. And then zip it. We don't even ask people. We don't need to ask people for money because they're going to be like, yo, that looks awesome. How do I get in on this? I want to do the next one. What's the maximum amount that you'll take or whatever? It just naturally happens. But put your lenders on the pedestal. That's the superpower, right? Being a great borrower, helping lenders make great returns on their money. And we create win-win situations by doing so, right? Here's another one. This is the same person. So they finished this one, rolled it right over into this one, made almost $2,700 in 103 days. Not a lot of money on just what was the loan? $95,000, right? So she's making a great rate of return. So here's credibility tip number 7. Practice your elevator pitch. Practice your elevator pitch. And when I say elevator pitch, this might not be something that is, there's stages to it. And you're not just going to say, right when you meet someone, oh, hey, we give you a promissory note, we give you a mortgage, we give you this much percent, and here's my business model. Like, you might run into this person 3 or 4 times over the next month. And each time you run into them, maybe you're doing the next step. So if I'm at a hockey game, and I'll share with you what this is here in a minute. And then I got a parent that's there. I always ask them, hey, so what do you do for a living? I ask them this, what do you do for a living? And I'm truly, sincerely fascinated by how other people make money and how they've spent the last 20, 30 years with their careers. I think it's so cool. I just flip houses. I'm not impressed with that. If you're a firefighter, if you're a police officer, if you're a teacher, IT, whatever it is, that I'm like, gosh, that's so cool. Like, I don't think I could have done that. I'm really fascinated. But what happens with human nature, if we ask someone what they do for a living, what are they going to ask us? They're going to ask us, hey, what do you do? What do you do? How about you? What do you do? And that's what I'm looking for, right? Like, let's open the door. Let's have this conversation. And so instead of saying, hey, I wholesale, I rehab, I do this, like Airbnbs, like, I keep it very vague. But what I found is I say something like this, maybe you can too. Have you ever seen the house flipping shows? Who hasn't seen a house flipping show? Have you ever seen the house flipping shows? I do that. And then 9 times out of 10, they're fascinated by that in some facet. So they'll say, oh my God, I've always wanted to do that. Or I've always been curious about that, blah, 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 blah. And so then, and I like to hear what intrigues them about it, right? I like to hear what intrigues them about the house flipping shows, right? And then we kind of talk a little bit about that. But they've always wanted, so then when they say, oh my God, I've always wanted to do that, I'll always say, hey, well, tell me why you haven't yet. What's been stopping you? And it's simple. It's knowledge of how to do it. It's their time. Some people think you need a lot of money. You need to be a millionaire to do this, which we all know isn't accurate, right? So I find out what has been stopping them. And then I kind of let them know, hey, look, let's say someone, for instance, always wanted to do it, but just never knew how. Oh, wow, what's really cool is, I don't know if you'd be interested in something like this, but my wife and I, we do this full time, and we have people who private money lend on our transactions, and they make a great rate of return. They kind of, get an inside look at how we do things while they're making a great return on their money. Would that be something that you'd be interested in? Yeah, cool. Let's follow it up with a meeting and go into greater detail. I don't want to talk about it at the hockey game. It's kind of weird, right? And you do a little takeaway and let them go home thinking about that opportunity. And then next week that you see them, hey, let's set up that meeting. Okay, cool, right? Money's everywhere. And a person doesn't have to be a millionaire to be a private money lender. Many of our lenders start off 30, 40, 50,000, and then they just put it back in or whatever, right? And we figure out ways to work with people who are serious, right? Which is cool. So here's the elevator pitch. So I would take a picture of this, screenshot, notes, And I would say this 10,000 times until you say it in your sleep, right? First part's the business model, right? Actually, first part's this. Hey, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a doctor. Oh, that's super cool. Man, you must be really smart. I could never do what you do, right? How about you? What do you do? Oh, have you ever seen the TV show Flip This House? Man, I've always been fascinated by that. Really? Which part has been fascinating to you? Well, tell you a little bit about what we do. We buy houses for $100,000. We'll put 50 into them. And a person's $150,000 loan is secured by a $225,000 asset, just like a bank would want, right? And then I would kind of leave it at that, and then let them marinate and be like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. What's cool about it, a lot of people don't know this, but we treat our lenders just like a bank. So we give them a mortgage, a promissory note, and we list them on the insurance as the lost payee, or as the mortgage, just like a bank would want, right? You've probably done this before when you bought your house. You signed all those documents with the bank. Yeah. So in this type of scenario, you would be the bank. What kind of returns are we talking about here? Well, we pay our lenders a great rate of return, secured by a hard asset, 70 cents on the dollar. People love it. People love it. And I wouldn't in this, and you can throw out percentages and things like that, like 8%, 10%, 12%. I don't really like to. Sometimes I'll say double digit. What I found is, we don't want to overpay. So at the next meeting, if I set up a meeting, right? Because the elevator pitch, you talk about the 4 documents, rates of return. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, look, like, how's your money working for you now? And if they're like, well, it's just sitting in a savings account, why am I going to go and give them 12%? They'd be ecstatic to be making 8-10% rate of return on their money, right? So these are some tips here, seven steps, and I can't believe I got all of this in 25 minutes. I could keep going. It was so funny. Christy was like, oh, what if I finish early on my session? And I'm like, you could talk about this for 3 days. What are you worried about? And she's laughing, and I'm like, just keep going. What's cool is we can catch up on our monthly session, right? So hop on it if you haven't already joined us. I highly recommend it. There's 7 steps. I could spend an hour or 2 on each one of those steps. And I think that's what we're going to be doing with our sessions moving forward. So
thank you for listening to this episode of REI USA. Let these golden pieces of advice clear your path towards thriving real estate success and start making those amazing financial opportunities work for you. If you liked this episode and want to get more of these valuable secrets, be sure to subscribe to the show at www.rei-usa.com. Leave a rating too and share with your friends. Until next time.